Australia. Well, it's Tim Dwyer back again. It's been a while since I've put out a video, and I just want to go through a few things today that I really do feel need addressing dramatically. Our country's not getting any better. In actual fact, it's getting worse by the day. And that little hourglass off to my side is just a reminder that time is short for this nation and for the people in it, for you, for your families, and for what we once knew as Australia. And the time may have already expired. I'm not sure. I hope not. I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. There's a fair bit in it, and it will upset some of you. I am only running a broad brush over a lot of this information. This is not an in-depth. This is just something for you to think about. It's just good entertainment. It's not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. And so please look at this as entertainment value. And what I'll do now is I'll bring up a PowerPoint that I've put together, and hopefully it will all make a little bit of sense to you, and you might actually get the courage to do something. Most people find it just comfortable to sit behind Facebook and post likes and shares and stuff like that. Get off your lazy ass and do something. That doesn't work. Nobody's watching. Only like-minded people are watching. Those who you're trying to influence aren't watching. They're not listening, and they don't care. You are going to have to step up. So as we come towards the 11th of the 11th, Armistice Day, just remember of the hundreds of thousands of young men who gave every drop of blood they had, so as you could, sit there and click likes, grizzle, moan, complain. You don't understand. We're still at war, and the enemy's winning, because collectively we're too damn lazy or too scared, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? Well, what if? Those poor buggers back in the First World War were slaughtered like sheep, so as you could be free to what? Sit and cower? Come on, let's stand up and have a crack here. Let me share the screen and let's see what we can bring up. Here we go. Let me share this with you. This I believe to be the headquarters of the Centre for Destruction of Australia. And all those that work in it in any capacity whatsoever are adding to that destruction. That's what that place is. It is the center of destruction. I stole this off Facebook, so thank you to whoever posted it. There's 25 million people living in Australia, and the 226 of the 25 million who sit in these chairs planning how to ruin and destroy your family's lives each and every day, and they get paid very, very well for it. Thank you very much for nothing. But we're coming. Some of the past and present CEOs of the Centre for Destruction of Australia. Past and present. But this bunch, this group are responsible for setting in motion the modern destruction of your nation. You know, these Muppets are still getting paid a fortune in retirement. Gough Whitlam, well, no amount of rope would have been good enough for him, nor Bob Hawke, or for any of them really. But anyway, the treasonous acts, the things they put in motion is horrendous, and you are suffering because of it. Our unemployment is because of it. Our no manufacturing is because of it. Our immigration policies are because of these morons. The Centre for Destruction of Australia was created by these people. The most powerful protection the people of Australia have is the Constitution of the Australian Commonwealth. We, the people, only have a couple of enemies. One, the judiciary, and second, the supposed parliament. Both of these mobs will fight tooth and nail to protect their collective asses. Why? They're getting paid far too well. And I don't know, and I have no proof, but I have people who tell me that there is many a brown paper bag shuffled around through all these different sorts of people. I'm just saying, It's just good entertainment. Now, this is the act to constitute the Commonwealth of Australia on the 9th of July, 1900. This is the annotated version. This is the explanation, the annotated version of what this act is all about and how it came about and what it means. And those in public office, it's terrible to call it a public office. It's not. But they just don't listen. Each and every one of them, including the judiciary, are operating outside the lawful constitution. And I will show you this later on. Let's have a quick look at some entertaining bits, just a little bit of entertainment. Altering our constitution, section 128, and in subsection 148, a referendum, it says, a double majority, a majority of people in the majority of states and territories. No amendment of the Constitution can be made without the concurrence of that double majority. They want to change some aspect of our Constitution, they need a referendum. The plebiscite on the Marriage Act, that's BS. It's all BS. It cannot be passed into proper law because there was no referendum. All the rest of this stuff I'm going to show you, there is no referendum. There's been no lawful change to the Constitution. So all these muppets are actually committing criminal acts, whether they are in federal or state or in the judiciary. They are committing crimes. And they're good at it. They're professionals. Okay, now let's have a look at this. It says here, this is part of a lead up to the Australia Act. Okay, so we're getting a lead up to the Australia Act. Whereas the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth and the Premiers of the states at conferences held in Canberra on the 24th and 25th of June 1982 and the 21st of June 1984 agreed on taking of certain measures. Nobody knows what the certain measures to bring constitutional arrangements, meaning changes, affecting the Commonwealth and the states into conformity with the status of the Commonwealth of Australia as a sovereign, independent and federal nation. Get this. They changed the whole damn thing. Nobody in Australia knew what was going on. The people certainly didn't, only those in power, right? It's just criminal. Everything was changed. No referendums, nothing, right? The constitutional law was broken. In 1986, the Australia Act altered the Australian Constitution without a referendum, thanks to Bob Hawke, a self-confessed member of the Fabian Society. The Fabian Society act on gradualism towards socialism, and their mascot or their motto or whatever is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Tells you the character and the type of people they are. The acts came into effect simultaneously. The Australia Act in the UK eliminated the remaining possibilities for the UK to legislate with effect in Australia. So they changed the constitution right there. For the UK to be in Australia, to be involved in Australian government, they changed it again. And for an appeal from any Australian court to a British court, they changed it again. Now there's many other changes, but these are just some of the keys, right? The Prime Minister and every state premier broke the highest law in the land. And the High Court sat mute. It was hidden from the people. Mute. The judges, those who uphold the law, mute. Absolutely mute. Section 51, the Parliament. So let's have a look and see what the Parliament actually is. In the Constitution, it says the legislative power of the Commonwealth shall be vested in a federal Parliament which consists of the Queen, a Senate and a House of Representatives, and which hereinafter be called the Parliament or the Parliament of the Commonwealth. Well, guess what they just got rid of? In the Australia Act that Bob Hawke brought in and everybody else that knew about it agreed to it. Liberal, Labor, anybody. They got rid of the Queen. They got rid of the appeal process. No referendums. There was no referendum to alter our constitution, to eliminate the Queen from the terms of the Parliament. There was no referendum to change our legal system and appeal process. People, those who we are supposedly to call honourable, the honourable member for this and the honourable member, they are not an honourable dog turd. They are operating, and they still operate and have operated, in criminality. If you and I were to break the law to this degree, all hell would break loose. Well, there is such a thing as Magna Carta and Section 61 for lawful rebellion. No referendum equals not constitutional. Now remember this, if the High Court will uphold one section of the Constitution, Section 41, where they were running around screaming because they weren't born in the country or their grandparents were somewhere else or somebody was up somebody else and weren't paying, I don't know how it worked, but it must uphold every section. If it's not lawful, then it is null and void, doesn't exist, all right? So the High Court now are going to have a problem. They want to uphold one section, they got to uphold the lot. And they're going to have to hold everybody accountable, everybody. Local councillors, state politicians, federal politicians, public servants, the whole damn shooting match. This could get exciting. Full-blown treason, instigated and carried out with full knowledge of both Labor and Liberal levers, both state and federal. The Australia Act 1986. Any law, any treaty since then is just dust, right? There was a referendum on the 25th of July in 1988 to recognise local governments in the Constitution. It was not carried, it failed. Does that matter anything? Just because we, the people, voted no? We are the authority in the Constitution. The people are the authority. That's why they con you into thinking you're going to vote for them, right? Okay, let's have a look at this. It was not carried, it failed. In direct violation to the referendum, the will of the people, Bob Hawke, again, beer swilling, Fabian, wolf in sheep's clothing, Bob Hawke introduced the Local Government Act in direct violation of the referendum. Again, he broke the highest law in the land, and every state leader also broke that law too. Why? Because of the money that was going to come. So Harry Gibbs, High Court Judge, Harry Gibbs is now passed. God bless Harry Gibbs. I therefore have to come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in Australia and the states and territories has no basis at law. He's a High Court judge. Well, okay, I've pulled this out of some of Harry Gibbs's letter. All right, let me shift this so as I can read it. Now, I have cherry-picked this a little bit. There's a whole probably 4-page letter, which I'm not going to read here, but listen to this. He's talking about the new Governor-Generals under the Australia Act, right? The Governor-General's letters patent is a comedy of errors. We are greeted in the name of the Queen of Australia, who suddenly becomes the Queen of the United Kingdom in the next paragraph. I therefore have to come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in use in Australia and its states and territories has no basis at law. Now he's talking to other High Court judges, and he's talking to them in this letter, and he says, my advice is to adjourn any case that challenges the authority of the letters patent. Under no circumstance hear a case that challenges the validity of a state or a federal constitution. Listen to this. it is the politicians who are using us as pawns without them having to face the music. They created the mess, right? These matters are of concern to the politicians. Let them sort out these problems and accept any inherent risk themselves, because they created the problem. They created the problem, the politicians. Now, the High Court, they've upheld Section 41 must be upheld. So the rest of the Constitution must be upheld also. And if it is not, then we the people have no legal responsibility to uphold any of their crap laws. Right? Including taxation, but that's just my gig, right? The enormous amount of issues and problems that keep us ineffective in stopping the destruction of Australia. Look, you only got to look around on Facebook and stuff, and there's 10,000 different issues, everybody's screaming, and it's all important to them. And I'm not belittling anybody's issues, but we're all separated, going in separate directions. All those issues are created by just one bunch of mongrels. They're all in that big house. Let's have a look at this. It's now time for every interest group to do what they think you won't do. Let's join forces and come together. Let's all shout with just one voice. Let's stand back to back and demand that this country and its people be returned to its lawful constitution. You see, we've got all this stuff. We've got farmers in there. We've got Chinese influence in the government. We've got China buying the crap out of everything. Totally inadequate pensions and social security. The pensioners, they busted their guts. They created this country and they're treated worse than third world migrants who just come here. Look, I'm sorry. I don't like swearing on videos, but that's bullshit. Excessive foreign aid, over $4 billion. I got to look, don't even get me started on that. Right? Bank corruption, I'm going to have a look at that in a minute. Manufacturing destroyed. Thank you, Gough Whitlam, you twit. Right? Paul Keating, look, they're all in on it. Right? They destroyed it years ago. Right? Incompatible immigration, forced medication. You should see some of the things. I've got a dear friend of mine who had a medical procedure, and the anesthesia affected her in her ability to function. Oh, sorry. No compensation, sorry. Right? Don't even get me started down the vaccine. Don't even start with that. Councils operating in direct violation of referendums. These people here, they have no understanding of what fee simple land means. There's free speech. Me speaking out like this, boy, I'll tell you what, my life could get real interesting or become very short. I'm not sure, right? Selling water to speculators and stealing the water. Monetary restrictions. Really? Well, come and arrest me, you twats, right? Inadequate fuel reserves, 3 weeks at best. 457 visa labour flooding our markets. Fee simple rights on land totally ignored, even though there's High Court rulings to support it. Allowing migrant groups to operate under their separate cultural laws. Here, if I got married to 2 separate women in this country, it's illegal. And I would be either jailed or fined. And yet we have migrant groups who can have 2 or 3 or 4 different wives and everybody's getting paid. There is one law in this country, not separate laws for separate peoples. Let's get this right. And the other thing is, I won't be taxed by a corporation to pay some other migrant group for their cultural way they want to eat food. You can shove it. Let's investigate the banks. The investigation into banks turned up thousands, tens of thousands of broken laws, millions of dollars of misappropriated and stolen money, money laundering, unlawful contracts, businesses destroyed, generational farms stolen, life savings stolen, false documents created, extortion, and possibly hundreds of suicides, all under the watch of the ACCC, the Australian Criminal Cartel Caretakers. How many CEOs, CFOs, account managers, branch managers, board members have been found guilty of these crimes? Who took responsibility? Who's been charged? What court have they appeared in? What penalty has been paid and by whom? Now, in part 5 of the powers of the Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have the power to make laws for peace, order, and good government. They have failed in every one. Every one. They have failed. They have been counted, weighed, and measured and found wanting in all cases. Selling water to commercial speculators, food producers unable to survive due to either the lack of water during the drought or the excessive high cost of water. The water's owned by people in London and America and China. They don't even have a bloody grain of dirt here, right? And again, it's in the Constitution, you shall not separate water from land. Do they care? No, they don't have to abide by this because they are criminals outside the Constitution. They have stepped outside. They've written their own laws and you think it's okay. Section 100 of the Constitution, the Commonwealth shall not by any law or regulation of trade, commerce, abridge the right of a state or the residents therein to reasonable use of the waters of rivers for conservation or irrigation. It is constitutionally legal for those who irrigate, if the water is passing by, leave some for your neighbours, but by all means use some, and the government cannot stop you because they are not a de jure, legal, lawful government. Oh man, look, this just does my head in, really it does. Those who would destroy your nation have separated water from land and have made it a tradable commodity. This is because they are not a lawful government. They are just a massive corporation stealing every right and every dollar from you that they can. They are not operating under the lawful Constitution. You must understand that. This is not a theory. It is an actual lawful fact. Now, who the bloody hell is okaying all of our farms, a sale of all our farms and infrastructure? Who's given the okay on this? Well, it's the Foreign Investment Review Board. Now, it's all in the name. You've got to understand, words have meanings. It's the Foreign Investment, not the Australian Investment Review Board, the Foreign Investment Review Board. Let's have a look. In economic sense, an investment is the purchase of goods that are not consumed today but are used in the future to create wealth. In finance, an investment is a monetary asset purchased with the idea that the asset will provide income in the future or will later be sold at a higher price for a profit. That's an investment. Foreign Investment Review Board. These people review the sale of Australian assets to the benefit of the foreign investor, not Australia. Who are these people? Who would actually do this crap to Australia? Well, let's have a look at them. Right? The chairman of the Foreign Investment Review Board is Mr. David Irvine. Now, David's an interesting bloke. David's a former Director General of both the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation and the Australian Secret Intelligence Service. And you wonder why I'm worried whether I'll be here. Woohoo! He's also a former Australian ambassador to China. Nothing to see here. No conflict of interest. Nothing. No, look away. Don't look here. David's a good bloke. So they tell us. Teresa Dyson, right? Teresa's done a lot of stuff, right? Her current directorships include the Seven West Media Limited, Energy Queensland Limited, Energy Super, and Gold Coast Hospitals and Health Boards. And she's a former chair and a member of the Board of Taxation. Nothing to see here either. Wow, wow, gee whiz. Now, Alice Williams is director at JP Morgan. Oh, and look at this, NM Rothschilds, and has been a consultant to listed corporations in Australia and the Gulf states. The Gulf states is just another way of saying the Arab nations. Nothing to see here either. And you wonder why we're selling all this stuff, why these people give it a tick. I wonder why. Oh, geez, I don't know. I'll tell you what, I have to think about that. Oh, and look at this. Here's Nick Minchin. Oh, Nick. Now, Mr. Minchin held a number of ministerial positions, including as Minister for Industry, Science and Resources from 98 to 2001, the Minister for Finance and Administration from 2001 to 2007, and while in office he held the post of the Leader of the Government in the Senate and Vice President of the Executive Council. Now, there you go. No pulling strings here. Nick's a good, honest bloke. Nick would never use his previous positions to do anything untowards. Yeah, right. Anyway, moving on. So what you think is a lawful government is the actual fact just a corporate takeover of your nation. The new Parliament House was set up as the UN-backed corporate headquarters. The headquarters of the Centre for the Destruction of Australia. You want to have a look at this place from an aerial overview. The amount of symbolism you'll see in there is just mind-boggling. But anyway, carry on. The High Court has ruled that Section 41 of the Constitution must be upheld. If one section of the Constitution must be upheld, it stands that every section must be upheld. A maxim at law. You have authority over that which you create. Now, I know this is going a bit long, but please, please stick with me or come back to it or something. Now, creation. And look, I understand there's a whole bunch of you out there don't believe in God. That's your thing. This is my thing. But this is the maxim at law. God created everything. That's a maxim at law, right? So at law, God created man. The created cannot be greater than that which created it. Man cannot be greater than God. So man didn't want to be governed by God, so he created governments. The governments cannot be greater than that which created it. There's a whole thing here, right? On election day, you are then a spirit blood man creating a parliament, creating a government. The day the polls close, you go back to being an entity, but we'll get to that. So the governments create corporations, companies and corporations, and they create entities. And you, my dear friend, with a license and everything done in capitals and everything else, you're an entity, but you get to choose. Yeah, are you the entity or the man? How do you want to be? Do you want these guys having control over you, or do you want to have control over them? You see, the government cannot be greater than that which created it. You got it? You get to choose whether you live here or whether you live there. There's a whole different ball. There's a whole lot of stuff out there on that, okay? So every supposed government entity that is demanding any type of compliance or monetary payment, both state and federal, show the people, your creators, we the people created the governments, your documents of authority. That's all you got to do. You got to demand that they produce the documents of authority, that they have authority over you. No, they don't. The Governor-General of Australia produce the lawful constitutional documents that give you authority to swear in our Australian Parliament under the Propers Letters Patent of 1901. Not the letters patent created by the constitutional arrangements that created the Australia Act of 86 to bring about the Commonwealth of Australia under the Queen of Australia. We already heard about that. right? Section 51 of the Parliament, the legislative power of the Commonwealth is to be vested in the federal Parliament, which consists of the Queen. Aha, right? Which Queen? Queen of the United Kingdom, Elizabeth, is styled Elizabeth II by the grace of God of the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of her other realms and territories, Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, protector of the realm. Not the Queen of Australia, the Queen, the Queen. To every sitting member of Parliament in both houses, produce the lawful documents that give you the constitutional authority to make any laws, sign any treaties, sell any assets that belong to the Australian people. Now, I'm putting together a letter that I'm going to put out there that you're all going to be able to print off, make your own copy of, send it off. Every law, every foreign treaty, every dollar given in foreign aid, every farm and asset, and every house that's been sold to foreign investors since 1986 is a criminal act. Every court hearing in every state has been outside the lawful parameters of the Constitution of the Australian Commonwealth. That's an interesting one, perhaps. It's now time for every interest group to do what the government thinks we won't do. Join forces, come together, shout with one voice, stand back to back, and demand this country and its people be returned to the lawful Constitution. Now, if you want to send an email or two, here's some email addresses. Sorry you won't be able to click on them, it's a video. But you can find them. Let these people know. Let these people know. We have had enough, and we are not going to sit still any longer. We're Australians. We're the diggers. We're the ancestors of the diggers. We've got to find it somewhere deep inside of us that our heritage, the blood that runs through us, is the same blood that was spilt all over the world fighting for freedom. Don't just cower down into nothing. Your greatest enemy is fear. Remember, you are the masters. They are the imposters and the thieves. Don't listen to fear. Fear means forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. Time's running out, guys. Our flag is upside down. Our nation is in distress. There's only one person out there that can do any good for this nation, and that, my friend, is you. May I say, God bless Australia. May I say, the fight has just begun. It will get nasty. It will get dirty. It will be worth winning. And I will say now, thank you. And thank you so much. And at the end of the day, all we have is each other. Those in that house are going to strip us bare. They're taking our rights away from us at 100 miles an hour. That hourglass is running down real quick. Don't think that they care. They are narcissistic people. They have no love for you. They have no love for this country. They love only themselves, their power, and their position. You are just dirt under their feet. Thank you. I'll speak to you again another day soon, I hope.